Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Some reason Jehovah's Witnesses do not do research any part of the religion. Judge Rutherford, who was he? What kind of man was he? And in the beginning of this information, you're going to hear that he found the truth. There's two different truths. And Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't understand. He was a lawyer. He found what you would call the truth in the Bible students movement under Charles T. Russell. When he died, he became the second president, and then that's when you became known as Jehovah's Witnesses in 1931. Now, when I played this, you're going to learn this guy was not equal to Charles T. Russell, which I'm not saying Charles T. Russell is a good example, but you get my point here in just a few minutes after we go through this. Okay, here we go.
Rutherford himself was a courageous fighter for the truth. He was born of Baptist parents in Morgan County, Missouri, on November 8, 1869, from Sister Ross, the elder natural sister of Joseph Franklin Rutherford, A.D. Schroeder learned this. Their father was a staunch Baptist out in Missouri where the family lived. Her younger brother Joseph never could accept the Baptist hellfire teaching. This resulted in many heated debates in the household even before they had heard of the truth. Her brother always had been one of strong convictions with a deep sense of justice. From youth he wanted to be a lawyer and a judge. Their father wanted him to stay on the farm rather than go to college to study law. Joseph had to get a friend who would loan him money, not only to hire a replacement for him on his father's farm, but also to finance his studies in law. Joseph Rutherford paid his own way through school. Among other things, he became an expert at taking shorthand, a skill very useful years later in quickly recording his thoughts for biblical articles and other material. While still in school, Joseph Rutherford became a court stenographer. This enabled him to finish paying for his course and also gave him practical experience. After completing his academy education, Rutherford spent 2 years under the tutelage of Judge E.L. Edwards. At 20 years of age, Joseph Rutherford became the official reporter for the courts of the 14th Judicial Circuit in Missouri. When 22, he was admitted to the Missouri bar. His license to practice law in that state was granted on May 5, 1892. According to the records of the Cooper Circuit Court, Rutherford began practicing law at Boonville, Missouri, as a trial lawyer with the law firm of Draffin and Wright. J.F. Rutherford later served for 4 years as public prosecutor in Boonville, Missouri. Still later he became a special judge in the same 14th Judicial District of Missouri. In this capacity, if the regular judge was unable to hold court, Rutherford sat as a substitute judge. Court records substantiate his appointment as a special judge on more than one occasion. Hence, he came to be known as Judge Rutherford. Hazel and Helen Krull remember hearing J.F. Rutherford tell how he first became interested in the truth proclaimed by Jehovah's servants. They tell us, during one of Brother Rutherford's visits he suggested a walk in the moonlight out into the countryside. As we walked, he talked, telling of his early life and how he became interested in the truth. He was brought up on a farm but he wanted to study law. His father felt the need of his help on the farm but finally consented to let him go if he paid his own way in school and also paid for a helper on the farm to take his place. During summer vacation time he sold books in order to live up to his agreement. He made a promise to himself that when he became a practicing lawyer, if anyone ever came to his office selling books he would buy them. That day came, in 1894, but his law partner talked to the caller. She was a colporteur, Sister Elizabeth Hettenbaugh, and was presenting 3 volumes of Millennial Dawn. His partner was not interested and dismissed her, and her associate colporteur, Sister Beeler.
Now, here comes, because he made a promise to himself, because he used to sell books, he would buy books from a buyer, because he made that promise to himself. next person he will buy books from. And he had no clue the books he bought would deceive him, just like Jehovah's Witnesses are being deceived today from their teaching, from Judge Rutherford, and Judge Rutherford's failure that he did his research and fell in the trap of Charles T. Russell's false teaching.
Brother Rutherford, emerging from his private office, having overheard something about books and remembering his resolve, called her back, took the books and placed them in his library at home, and there they remained for a while. One day as he was convalescing from a sick spell, he opened one of the books and started to read. That was the beginning of a lifelong interest and a never-ceasing devotion and service to his God. Meetings of the Bible students were not held in the immediate vicinity of the Rutherford home. However, Clarence B. Beatty says, from 1904 on, meetings were held in our home. Sister Rutherford and Judge Rutherford came up from Boonville, Missouri, for the memorial of Christ's death. He partook of his first memorial and gave his first pilgrim talk to the friends in our home. They had no one in the truth in Boonville except themselves. But how did J.F. Rutherford get started as a preacher of the good?
They said he partook. Partook means what the Bible students was doing. They was taking the memorial emblems, the wine, the loaf of unleavened bread. Does that mean he was eating it and drinking it? And Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that today? Interesting.
Good news? Well, A.H. Macmillan largely was responsible for that. Macmillan met Rutherford in 1905 at Kansas City during a trip across the United States with Brother Russell. A little later, Brother Macmillan stopped to visit Judge Rutherford for a day or two. One conversation between them went like this: Judge, you ought to be preaching the truth here. I'm not a preacher. I'm a lawyer. Well, now, Judge, I'll show you what you can do. You go and get a copy of the Holy Bible and a small group of people, and teach them about life, death and the hereafter. Show them where we got our life, why we came into the condition of death and what death means. Take the scriptures as a witness, and then wind up by saying, there I have fulfilled everything like I said, just as you would to the jury in a court trial, and drive it home in conclusion. That doesn't sound too bad. What happened after that? Did Rutherford do anything about that advice? Brother Macmillan reported, there was a colored man that worked on a little farm that was next to his city home, close to the edge of town. About 15 or 20 colored people were there, and he went over there to give them a sermon on life, death and the hereafter. While he was talking, they kept saying, praise the Lord, Judge, where did you get all that? He had a great time. That was the first Bible talk he ever gave. Not long thereafter, in 1906, J.F. Rutherford symbolized his dedication to Jehovah God. Wrote Brother Macmillan, I had the privilege of baptizing him at St. Paul, Minnesota. He was one of 144 persons that I personally baptized in water that day. So when he became president of the society, I was especially pleased. In 1907, Rutherford became the Watchtower Society's legal counselor, serving at its Pittsburgh headquarters. He was privileged to negotiate matters when the society transferred its operations to Brooklyn, New York, in 1909. To do this, he made application and was admitted to the New York bar, becoming a recognized lawyer for that state. On May 24th of the same year, Rutherford was also admitted to practice before the United States Supreme Court. J.F. Rutherford frequently gave discourses as a pilgrim, a traveling representative of the Watchtower Society. He journeyed widely as a Bible lecturer in the United States, speaking in many colleges and universities by request, and he also addressed large audiences throughout Europe. Rutherford visited Egypt and Palestine, and in 1913, accompanied by his wife, he traveled to Germany, where he addressed audiences totaling 18,000. His traits: Jesus Christ said that all his followers were brothers and that the one greatest among them must be their minister. Matt 23, 8-12. Hence, no true Christian accords any fellow believer undue importance. Yet, the Bible reveals the traits of various servants of God. Moses, for example, was noted for meekness. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, for their fiery enthusiasm. Num 12. 3. Mark 3:17. Luke 9:54. Since Joseph F. Rutherford was entrusted with much responsibility in God's earthly organization, it is of some interest to note his traits and qualities. Rutherford had always manifested a deep Christian love for his associates, said A.H. Macmillan, and was very kind-hearted, but he was not naturally of the same gentle, quiet-mannered disposition as Russell. He was direct and outspoken and did not hide his feelings. His bluntness, even when spoken in kindness, was sometimes misunderstood, but he had been president only a short time when it became apparent that the Lord had chosen the right man for the job. Further insight into Rutherford's personality is gained from what took place in the Bible students' Old London Tabernacle when he gave the memorial talk there on April 18, 1924. Concerning this, Sister William P. Heath writes, "The Tabernacle was an old Episcopalian church that the Society had bought cheap, and they used it for Sunday meetings as we use a Kingdom Hall today. The place for the speaker was way up at the ceiling, about 20 feet off the floor. Only his head would be visible when addressing the audience. Maybe this is why Brother Rutherford called it the horse trough. He refused to speak from it. In fact, he shocked the brothers by coming down and standing on a level with them. When Brother Rutherford first assumed the presidency of the Watchtower Society, there was a need for courage, faithfulness and determination. He manifested such qualities. For instance, Esther I. Morris recalls a talk Rutherford gave before a large audience as a pilgrim in what was then the biggest theater in Boise, Idaho. She states, his expose of false religion aroused the ire of several local clergymen, who tried to interrupt and challenge him, but his emphatic sit down, I demand the protection of the law made him able to continue. Bible students from adjacent towns came and we hired a hall and so had a small convention. He was most emphatic to let it be known that this message and ministry was no small thing. A rather touching reflection on Brother Rutherford's nature is provided by Anna Elston. Recalling her youth, she writes, we visited many times with Brother Rutherford. On one occasion several of us younger people were gathered together and Brother Rutherford came over to us. We asked many questions about school, flag saluting, etc., and he talked to us a long time. When he was ready to say goodbye, he held the hands of all five of us in his two big hands so lovingly and he had tears in his eyes. He was so happy and touched to see us, so young and yet talking about the deep things of the truth. I've never forgotten it. Just as Brother Russell was loving, we also felt the love of this big Brother Rutherford.
Well, people, you have to understand one thing. He made Jehovah Witnesses basically what they are today. He stopped believing in Charles T. Russell's false teaching about Armageddon was going to happen in 1914. And this guy has ruined many people's lives today because he broke away from the Bible students movement to form a new religion. So that means Jehovah's Witnesses, y'all would be called Bible students. If this guy didn't stick his head out of the door and bought those books from that Bible student and start reading the lies that was in those books, which if there was truth in those books, why did the governing body had all the books taken out of every Kingdom Hall, the older books of Charles T. Russell's and Judge Rutherford? Why? Because there was too many lies in the scriptures of false dates and all other stuff that was published by the Watchtower. People, this is the reason why we do these research, not to benefit ourselves, because we are out. You're still in, or you're learning to do real research against this religion, or you're hoping to join this religion. But I hope information like this will keep you away so you don't get poisoned by the tentacles of the Watchtower. Thank you and have a nice day.